Welcome students. Today our topic of discussion is introduction to proteins. Here we will be mainly dealing about the macromolecules, which is the protein. The macromolecules is the most important factor governing our different type of functions. So the protein plays a very important role in controlling different type of functions. So in today's lecture, we will be getting an idea of what is the structure of protein, what are the functions of protein, and how these proteins are regulating our life. Okay. So first of all, first one is just an introductory slide. Proteins are molecular machines, building blocks and arms of a living cell. Their major and almost sole function is enzymatic catalysis of chemical conservations in and around the cell. That means protein acts as a building block. That means they are based on the each and every unit of the proteins, and the proteins build up the whole body, and overall functioning of the body is also done in the by this proteins. Okay, so proteins are polymers. They are built up of amino acids that are linked into a peptide chain. That means proteins are built up of amino acids, and amino acids are the subunit of the protein, and the amino acids are joined together to form the polymers. Okay. Now, the next one, the chain consists of a chemically regular backbone from which various side chains are projected. Okay. So, the chain consists of a chemically regular backbone. That means they have a backbone, and from that, the side chains, that are the R units, are released. Okay. So NHCO, see this R1, R2, R3 are the side chains, and the main backbone lies in N, C, and H factors. Okay. So this is just an introduction about what are proteins. Now, coming to the specific definition, there are 20 main species of amino acid residues. Their position in the protein chain is gene coded, encoded. Okay. So this line needs explanation because this line is explaining many important points like they are made up of 20 amino acid residues. Their protein position in the protein chain is gene encoded. That means from the gene you are getting the RNA, and from the RNA you are getting the protein. So the proteins are always gene encoded. The peptide bond allows for rotation of protein, and therefore protein can hold, orient the R group in favorable positions. That means we all know that, see, this is a two amino acid. This is a one amino acid, and this is a second amino acid. Now these two amino acids are joined by the peptide bond, and when water is removed, CH2 is removed from these two molecules, and which lead to the formation of the bond, that is the peptide bond, CONH bond. Okay, this peptide bond is responsible for joining of two amino acids, and two amino acids are being held together by the peptide bond, and they the peptide bond allows the rotation of the main structure about each and every point. That means this amino acid allow the protein to move along the arms, making it of different, allowing to form different type of different type of structures. Okay, protein shape is determined by the sequence of amino acids. Okay, so protein shape is determined by the sequence of how the amino acids are sequenced, that is determined by the protein. So now coming to what are the different types of protein. Now depending upon the action or the structure, there are three types of mainly proteins. Okay, so the first one is the fibrous, second one is the membrane proteins, and globular proteins. So on the basis of the structure and function, they are divided into three types: fibrous, membrane, and globular. Now, fibrous, it is a water deficient aggregate. Their structure is highly hydrogen bonded, highly regular, and maintained mainly by interaction between various chains. So, what happens? They are water deficit. That means water is less in their content. The structure is usually highly hydrogen bonded. That means they are hydrogen bonded from among themselves, and they are in a compact structure, and interaction between the chains are not there. Membrane proteins. It's reside in water deficient membrane environments. The intramembrane portion of the highly regular and highly hydrogen bonded but restricted in size by the membrane thickness. So this portion is water deficient. Okay. So membrane environment is water deficient, and the membrane is mainly responsible for covering the organelles. Okay, globular, they are less regular and their structure is maintained by interaction of cell chains. So this is nothing but these are regular and their structure is maintained by interaction of chains with itself and sometimes by chain interaction. So globular proteins are mainly responsible for the different shapes of the protein. So now, coming to the main structure of the amino acids are the basic structural constituents of naturally occurring proteins. They consist of amino groups, a carboxyl group, a hydrogen, and a subsequent R group. So, before knowing protein, you have to know amino acid. Without amino acid, protein is nothing. So, to know the structure of the amino acid, what we have to do, uh, see, this is the amino group, that is the NH3, and this is the carboxyl group, that is the CO3, and this is the main carbon, that is the C carbon, then which is attached to one side hydrogen and one side R group. R group, on the basis of the change of the R group, the type of protein changes. Now they consist of amino, carboxylate, hydrogen, and substitute R group called side chain bounded to a central carbon atom, C alpha atom. So the carbon atom is known as central carbon atom or C alpha atom, and there are 20 standard amino acids. Sorry, there are 20 standard amino acids. That means on the basis of the different type of R groups, there are 20 types of amino acids present. Okay, so as there are different type of R groups, on the basis of that, there are different type of amino acids are present. Now, classification of amino acids by a group. On the type of the group, on the depending upon type of the group, the amino acids are classified. Okay, how they are classified on the based on the properties of the R group. Why? See, in this structure, all these parts are constant. Isn't it? CO3, H, NH3, all these are constant. This is true for all amino acids. But the portion which is responsible for the changes in the different types of proteins is the R group. The R group is the main governing factor for different type of proteins. So, on the basis of the R groups, the differentiation is also there. Classification of amino acids by the R group. Now, non-polar aliphatic R group, aromatic R group, polar uncharged R group, positively charged R group, negatively charged R group. There are 20 different types of amino acids on the type of R group. So, these are nothing but when the charges are different, when the all the R groups are different. So, on the basis of that, this different type of criteria have come up. Okay, so now moving on to the next portion. In this portion, what is happening, these are the structure of different type of amino acids. Okay, you can, from here you can understand how the different type of R groups are responsible for the formation of different type of amino acids. Like, see here, the in glycine the R group is H. In this is alanine, here the R group is CH2. Here the R group is this one. The pink portion you can see is the R group, and the with the changes of the R group, different type of amino acids are there. So the first category, non-aliphatic, non sorry non-polar aliphatic R group. So the under this category there are this type of varieties are there. Okay. Now next one is aromatic R group. In aromatic R group, what happens? There are three types of amino acids, and these three types, the all see the benzene ring are present. So these are aromatic R group. Okay. Now next one is the polar uncharged R group. In this polar uncharged R group, they are uncharged but they are polar. So on the basis of that, serine, threonine, cysteine, asparagine, glutamine, all these are present. Next category is positively charged R group. That means this all the structures are positively charged. See, plus signs are there. So positively charged R group, basic group, is comes under the lysine, arginine, and histidine. Next one is negatively charged R group. On this character, there are two examples, aspartate and glutamate. Okay, see, they are negatively charged, minus minus. Okay, so the pink portion, that means the R group, is negatively charged, and the example of this type of amino acids are aspartate and glutamate. Now, the next is structural organization of proteins. Okay, the structural organization of proteins, how this the different structures are present in a particular protein. Okay, the structural and functional features of proteins and protein complexes are addressed at the four levels of hierarchical organization. Okay, so these are, now the structure of protein is basically divided into four parts. Not only the structure, the type, depending upon the type of structure, how we are addressing the structure, there are four categories, that is primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. Okay, so this first degree, second degree, as it is written in the brackets, so these are the different category um, of your structures. Okay, so now say in the by the diagram, let us explain the things. See the primary structure. This is the primary structure. Amino acid residues are arranged among themselves in serial orders. Lysine, glycine, leucine. See, the different amino acids are arranged among themselves in the amino acid residues are arranged among themselves in primary structure. Now moving on to the secondary structure, alpha helix, beta sheet. This is very important. Alpha helix, beta sheet type of structures are seen, and this comes under the category of your secondary structure. Now tertiary structure is also there. Now when we are further, I mean magnifying the thing, we can see how the 3D structure. This is the 3D structure where we can see the each and every coil and how they are oriented. That thing is known by the tertiary structure and the polypeptide chain. Now, in the quaternary structure, what happens? There each of the units in assembled form can be seen. So this is the quaternary structure, and it is seen in the form of the assembled units. Okay. Now, further explaining the type of structures, that is primary, secondary, and your tertiary structures, a description of all covalent bonds linking amino acid residues in a polypeptide chain is its primary structure. Okay, so when amino acid residues, how they are arranged among themselves, they are linked one after another to form the particular type of a chain is known as the primary structure of protein. So coming to secondary structure refers to stable arrangement of amino acids giving rise to recurring structural patterns. Okay, so refers to particular stable arrangement of amino acid residues giving rise to recurring structural patterns. That means recurrent structural patterns or the amino acid residues, how they are orienting or changing the shape of the protein are all explained in the secondary structure. Now coming to the tertiary, describes all effects of three-dimensional folding of a polypeptide. Okay, so three-dimensional folding of a polypeptide is mainly governed by the tertiary structure. The tertiary structure describes all aspects of the three-dimensional folding of a polypeptide. Now, these foldings are done mainly by the different type of bonds present within them. Now, coming to the quaternary, when a protein has two or more polypeptide subunits, their arrangement in space is referred to as the quaternary structure. So, what happens? When a protein has two or more polypeptide subunits, okay, and their arrangement in space is referred to as quaternary structures. That means a particular protein, when consists of two or more polypeptides, has subunits. So the arrangement of these subunits are mainly known by the quaternary structures. Now, dihedral angles. These are dihedral angles are easy to understand. See, by this C carbon, that is the main carbon, that is a C alpha. Here, see, this is the hydrogen, this is the R group. This is the amino group, and it is the another amino acid linked by the peptide bond. So you can see by the arrows that the angle formed by the particular carbon with the different type of hands is known as the dihedral angle. See, uh, on the basis of the position of the different type of angles, the names are given. The diagram showing a polypeptide chain with a side group. Okay, the main angle backbone dihedral. That is the main. This see they are differentiated to different type of varieties like phi chain, psi chain, omega chain, xi chain. All these varieties are there. Okay, psi chain, phi chain, phi chain, psi chain, and omega chain, and your a ci chain. Okay, so what happens? There is a lambda. Okay, now see this is the psi. This angle is psi. This angle is phi, and this angle is particular angle is omega, and another angle is your this particular angle is omega, and that another side of the carbon atom is mainly governed by the lambda chains. Okay, so lambda and degree angles. So these are the denotation of different type of dihedral angles present inside the proteins. Okay, now alpha helix and beta sheets. Okay, now what happened, we will be knowing about what are the alpha helix and beta sheets. Okay, alpha helix is a stable right-handed helical structures and is also called as 3 points, also 3.613 helix means there are 13 base pairs in each turn, and there are 3.6 residues apart. That means the each turn of the particular your helical structure will 3.6 residues will be used to confirm all these structures. So, alpha helix is a stable right-handed helical structure. It is a rod-like structure. So, this is the right-handed structure and this is a rod-like structure, and that structure is seen in case of the proteins. Okay, see this is a one helix and another helix is there. Now, each the helical structure is further clarified that there are 3.6 residues present in between the two turns, and this is the overall structure of the alpha helix, where the blue, black, all these are the main atoms arranged among themselves, and carbon atoms are also present in between, and the carbon atoms are surrounded by different type of different type of varieties of elements. Okay, now coming to the second category of prior, this is basically the explanation of the secondary structure, and alpha sheet we have discussed. Now coming to the beta sheets, alpha helix. Okay, the beta sheet structure is pleated sheets and results from intermolecular hydrogen bonds group of neighboring strands perpendicularly the strand axis. Okay, so what happens, the beta sheet structure is pleated sheets and results from intermolecular hydrogen bonds. So beta sheet is like a sheet of paper one after the another, and they are linked by hydrogen bonds. Okay, see this is a sheet type of a structure, and one sheet is resting upon another, and they are linked by the hydrogen bonds, and each of the entity is known as the beta sheet. Okay, so this is the all about your beta sheet and alpha helix structure. Now, combining the alpha helix and beta sheet, you can see how they are arranged. This alpha helical structure is explained by the alpha helix and beta sheet. How these beta sheets are present, each of the sheets are forming like one after another. They are arranged among themselves, and the arrangement is linked by the hydrogen bonds. So these are the structure of the alpha helix along with the beta sheet. Now, as we know, already got an idea about the proteins in our last few slides. So at last topic, which we'll be doing today is the how is the structure of the protein, taking an example of day-to-day life. Hemoglobin is the first example I'm taking. So hemoglobin is a tetramer composed of two types of closely related subunits, alpha and beta. So how is the structure of protein? Uh, Not protein, the hemoglobin for our consideration we have taken it. So hemoglobin is a compound in which tetramers are present. Tetramer means four types of subunits are present. Here it is mentioned that each of two types. That means there are mainly two types of subunits, and uh, each subunit has number of factors. So there are four uh, forms are there. So that they are known as the tetramer and composed of two closely related subunits, and those closely related subunits is known as alpha and beta. Then hemoglobin transport O2 from lungs to tissues. Mm, So what happened? Hemoglobin is responsible for the transport of oxygen in the blood. We all know about it, and hemoglobin is hydrophilic. So that means the water attracting properties of the plants are exposed into the environment, and the hemoglobin is hydrophilic. That means the all the oxygen containing part is not oxygen, water containing part will be protruded out. See, the brown portion is the beta chain, and purple is the alpha chain. The pink is the your another tetramer group, and the dark brown is another tetramer group. So this is the overall structure of the hemoglobin, and each of this in between pink color slide type of a thing is known as the Fe2 plus or the heme. That means hemoglobin, you all know it is made up of iron. So this Fe2 plus is present in between the stacks of stacks of the particular protein. Okay. So now structure of heme group. Okay, structure of heme group is we have already explained. The structure is like this is a part of the surrounding molecule, and proximal histidine iron ion, and this is quite difficult to understand. If you understand this portion is already is okay. This is nothing but the further explanation of this structure. Okay. Now the next type of hormone which we will be dealing today is an example is myoglobin. Myoglobin is a monomer, doesn't have a quaternary structure at all, and myoglobin binds oxygen more tightly than does hemoglobin. So, this difference between binding energy reflects the movement of oxygen from bloodstream to the cells. So, what happens? The movement of oxygen into the bloodstream is mainly done by the different type of uh, enzyme myoglobins are used. Myoglobin binds more tightly than the hemoglobin, and the difference in binding energy reflects the movement of oxygen from the bloodstream to the cells. So in this way, the myoglobin is very much important. So this is nothing but how DNA is converted to RNA and then protein. Okay, now this is nothing but uh, the central dogma. Basically, DNA is getting converted to RNA, RNA is forming a protein. So this is the central dogma. Now with this my today's lecture ends here.